flows to the regions of eternal ice, where doubtless he is at this present moment, caked up with 10 millions of his subjects. Now just go and find that sovereign for me, O you bold-tongued dweller in other worlds." "And if I go, how am I to know your ancient king, as you say, amongst 10 million others?" "That is easy enough," quoth Ar hap lightly. "You have only to pass to and fro through the ice mountains, opening the mouths of the dead men and women you meet. And when you come to a middle-sized man with a fillet on his head and a jaw mended with gold, that will be whom you look for. Bring me that fillet here within 5 minutes, and the maid is yours." I started and stared hard in amazement. Was this a dream? Was the royal savage in front of me playing with me? By what incredible chance had he hit upon the very errand I could answer to best, the very trophy I had brought away from the grim valley of ice and death, and had still in my shoulder bag? No, he was not playing. He was staring hard in turn, joying in my apparent confusion, and clearly thinking he had cornered me beyond hope of redemption. "Surely your mightiness is not daunted by so simple a task," scowled the sovereign, playing with the hilt of his huge hunting knife. "And all amongst your friends kindred, too. On a hot day like this, it ought to be a pleasant saunter for a spirit such as yourself." "Not daunted," I answered coldly, turning on my heels towards the door, only marvelling that your Majesty's skull and your necromancers could not between them have devised a harder task. Out into the courtyard I went, with my heart beating finely in spite of my assumed indifference, got the bag from a peg in my sleeping room, and was back before the log throne ere 4 minutes were gone. "The old Hither King's compliments to your Majesty," I said, bowing, while a deathly hush fell on all the assembly. "And he says though your ancestors little liked to hear his voice while alive, he says he has no objection to giving you some jaw now he is dead." And I threw down on the floor the golden circlet of the frozen king. Ar hap's eyes almost started from his head as, with his courtiers, he glared in silent amazement at that shining thing, while the great drops of fear and perspiration trickled down his forehead. As for poor Heru, she rose like a spirit behind them, gazed at the jawbone of her mythical ancestor, and then suddenly realizing my errand was done and she apparently free, held out her hands, and with a tremulous cry would have come to me. But Ar hap was too quick for her. All the black savage blood swelled into his veins as he swept her away with one great arm, and then with his foot gave the luckless jaw a kick that sent it glittering and spinning through the far doorway out into the sunshine. "Sit down," he roared, "you brazen wench, who are so eager to leave a king's side for a nameless vagrant's care. And you, sir," turning to me, and fairly trembling with rage and dread, "I will not gainsay you have done the errand set you, but it might this once be chance that got you that cursed token, some one happy turn of luck. I will not yield my prize on one throw of the dice. Another task you must do. Once might be chance, but such chance comes not twice." "You swore to give me the maid this time." "And why should I keep my word to a half-proved spirit such as you?" "There are some particularly good reasons why you should," I said, striking an attitude which I had once seen a music hall dramatist take when he was going to blast somebody's future, a stick with a star on top of it in his hand and 40 lines of blank verse in his mouth. The king writhed, and begged me with a sign to desist. "We have no wish to anger you. Do us this other task, and none will doubt that you are a potent spirit, and even I, Ar hap, will listen to you." "Well, then," I answered sulkily, "what is it to be this time?" After a minute's consultation, and speaking slowly as though conscious of how much hung on his words, the king said, "Listen. My soothsayer tells me that somewhere there is a lost city in a forest, and a temple lost in the city, and a tomb lost in the temple. A city of ghosts and jinns given over to bad spirits, wherefore all human men shun it by day and night. And on the tomb is she who was once queen there, and by her lies a crown. Quick, on you whom all distances are nothing, and who see, by your finer essence, into all times and places. Away to that city. Jostle the memories of the unclean things that hide in its shadows. Ask which amongst them knows where dead Queen Yang still lies in dusty state. Get guides amongst your comrade ghost, find Queen Yang, and bring me here in 5 minutes the bloody circlet from her hair." Then, and then for the first time, I believed the planet was haunted indeed, and I myself unknowingly under some strange and watchful influence. Spirits, demons, oh what but some incomprehensible power, some unseen influence shaping my efforts to its ends, could have moved that hairy barbarian to play a second time into my hands like this? To choose from the endless records of his world the second of the two incidents I had touched in hasty travel through it. I was almost overcome for a minute, then pulling myself together, strode forward fiercely, and speaking so that all could hear me, cried, "Base king, who neither knows the capacities of a spirit, nor has learned as yet to dread its anger. See, your commission is executed in a thought, just as your punishment might be. Heru, come here." And when the girl, speechless with amazement, had risen and slipped over to me, I straightened her pretty hair from her forehead, and then, in a way which would make my fortune if I could repeat it at the conjurer's table, whipped poor Yang's gemmy crown from my pocket, flashed its baleful splendour in the eyes of the courtiers, and placed it in the tresses of the first royal lady who had worn it since its rightful owner died 100 years before. A heavy silence fell in the hall as I finished, and nothing was heard for a time save Heru sobbing on my breast, and a thirsty baby somewhere outside calling to its mother for the water that was not to be had. But presently on those sounds came the fall of anxious feet, and a messenger, entering the doorway, approached the throne, laid himself out flat twice, after which obeisance he proceeded to remind the king of the morning ceremonial on a distant hill, to pray away the comet, telling his majesty that all was ready and the procession anxiously awaiting him. Whereupon Ar-hap, obviously very well content to change the subject, rose, and coming down from the dais, gave me his hand. He was a fine fellow, as I have said, strong and bold, and had not behaved badly for an autocrat, so that I gripped his mighty fist with great pleasure. "I cannot deny, stranger," he said, "that you have done all that has been asked of you, and the maid is fairly yours. Yet before you take away the prize I must have some assurance of what you yourself will do with her. Therefore, for the moment, until this horrible thing in the sky which threatens my people with destruction is gone, let it be truce between us. You to your lodgings and the princess back, unharmed, amongst my women till we meet again." "But—" "No, no," said the king, waving his hand. "Be content with your advantage. And now to business more important than 10,000 silly wenches." And gathering up his robes over his splendid war gear, the wood king stalked haughtily from the hall. Chapter 17